Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome Maiwa, welcome Lex, welcome Papa Aziz, welcome Afiksha, and welcome Gun. It's so good to have you guys here today. Today we have with us Swedge at the real Swedge, and we have Fabian and Peros from the team. These guys are building a really interesting tool. So they're building what we would say would be a single point for all of the multi chains we have in crypto to swap and bridge tokens within them. So that should be fun. So if you are curious about bridging in crypto, if you're curious about how it works to handle move move tokens from one chain to another in a single application, a single dApp, then Fabian and Paris are here to respond to some of those questions. Today's topic, however, is like common misconceptions about bridges. So misconceptions that we have about bridges. Some of them are possibly the fact that they tend to be easy to hack. That could be a misconception, maybe not, but Fabian and DNA will sort of provide some clarity on that. And anyone who has insight will be more than happy to listen to your 2 cents on all of that. So, Fabian, quick intro. Tell us about yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then DNA will follow suit. So,
Yeah, sure. So my name is Fabian. I am one of the two co-founders of Swidge. Swidge is a bridge index aggregator. So basically, we aggregate different protocols out there and allow people to make transactions through the different through all of these providers, and basically swap from any token on any chain to any token on any other chain with one confirmation. And I'm here with my co-founder Pyrus today. So DNA, you want to make a quick intro about yourself?
I come from a technical background. I've been playing with crypto technology for not a lot, not since the beginning, but like 3-4 years now, and basically trying to learn everything that goes into using and moving assets up and down. And at some point, we actually identified something that a pain that we were having with Fabian, and this is where we jumped into start building this what now is called Switch. And yeah, I guess we've gathered a bit of knowledge like about bridges on this journey. Still a lot to go, really. It's like a big area where you can learn and actually because it's constantly growing. There's a lot to be known there, but yeah, happy to talk about this.
all right, awesome, cool. Thank you for that intro. Cool. So, Fabian, tell us what is Switch. I know you alluded to that while you introduced yourself, but it's a multi-chain bridge aggregator. But what exactly is Switch? High level, low level explanation.
Yeah, sure. It's basically become such big of a part of me that I always go straight there when I introduce myself as well.
Yeah, that's
As
okay.
you can imagine. Yeah, I think I already touched on it a little bit. Switch is a bridge index aggregator, hence the name as well. Switch is a mix of swap and bridge, Switch. And yeah, what do? We basically integrate bridges and decentralized exchanges into our solution. And then we allow users to execute transactions through all of the smart contracts that these solutions have deployed on chain. And therefore, we basically enable users to use all of the existing liquidity on the different chains and go from any token on any chain to any token on any other chain with one transaction. So yeah, we basically take care of finding the best route through the liquidity pools and the best route, like getting the user the most token for whatever they want to swap into.
Mm. Right. So essentially, Switch is ensuring that at any point in time that a user uses or makes use of Switch, they get the best possible deal at the fastest possible time.
Exactly. Yeah. It depends a little bit
Okay.
on like especially the second feature that you said. It depends on whatever the user wants. So because we're talking about cross-chain bridges, time and fees and security are kind of like trade-offs that you have to look at, um, which is like the famous bridging trilemma, where you can either optimize for let's say security, which then might take a little longer, or you can like optimize for any of the other verticals, and then you might be a little quicker on the transaction
Hmm.
or a little bit cheaper. But yeah, basically the result of your trade is really the result of what you actually need from that trade, basically.
Right. Okay. So essentially, Swidge just hands the trade over or just executes the trade and carries out and delivers the response to the user.
Exactly. Yes, that's how you can look at it.
All right, cool, cool, cool. So today we're looking at common misconceptions about bridges, and you guys are building this tool which handles a lot of bridges. And yesterday on our Discord, we talked about a couple things. One of them was how the possibility of bridging NFTs from one chain to another, and sort of I shared what I thought would happen or how I thought that process would be, and there was some clarity that Spyros Danny sort of went into, and that made a lot of sense. But we have new people here. This is a different audience, and I'll just pose that question again so we can revisit it as well as address certain misconceptions about bridges, right? So in my thought experiment with how I assumed you could bridge an NFT from one chain to another would be something along the lines of, say we want to move a Bored Ape from Ethereum to Polygon. I assume that right now perhaps there would be someone who goes ahead, or a person, or maybe someone who we've unanimously agreed to be verified, goes ahead and writes a smart contract and mints 10,000 Bored Apes. And then when you head over to the bridge to swap, quote unquote, or to bridge the Bored Ape from Ethereum over to Polygon, all they simply do is they give you the Polygon's equivalent while sort of like holding on to or trading that in for the Ethereum's equivalent. And so you have a representation of what exists on Polygon by sort of giving up, quote unquote, ownership, not necessarily, but that's just the term I will use, of the one you currently have on Ethereum. But that seems to not be the case, which and then the explanation made sense. So Fabian, do you want to go over that explanation again, sort of like so we can just revisit that and address other misconceptions as to how bridging NFTs work?
Yeah, sure. I think like yesterday's the example that Sandro brought up is the Ghostly Ghost, which is quite an innovative NFT project that is actually building on layer zero, and they're solving this bridging issue by basically allowing the user to bridge the NFT with a pre-deployed set of smart contracts on all of these chains. So basically, what they say is like with some arbitrary message, in this case, that you send cross chain, which is then being sent by layer zero. You can basically do the swapping of the NFT from one chain to the other inside the smart contract of like let's say in the smart contract of the ghostly ghosts. And I think that like the difference here really is that it kind of like it changes the trust assumption a little bit. Like obviously you have to trust the layer zero to actually get that message across from one chain to another. But then it really brings the trust on the smart contract that the team has deployed. Because that's where essentially the release of the new NFT on the other chain is happening. In traditional bridges, they would be mostly working with a lock and release or like a burn mint functionality, where you basically trust the bridge that the replica of the NFT that you get on the new chain is still equivalent to the NFT that you've initially deposited on the starting chain.
All right, cool, cool. So it has to. There is an element of trust in there, and then. So how exactly do we solve the trust issue, right? Because it's a guesswork, from what I'm thinking. So how exactly does it become less of a guesswork and more firm, essentially, right?
Yeah, that's a that's a really good and really deep question, actually. I think that I mean that's how basically all of this started. Like all of crypto started like this. How
Mm-hmm.
do we solve the trust issue, right?
Mm.
And as Sandra and I, we had a lot of conversations about this, and actually just today we had another conversation about this, where we were like looking at the current way bridges are built, and just basically just as a statement, there's different levels of trust, and there's always some sort of trust involved, either in the technology or in third parties. And I think what we mean today when we say trustless is that we trust the technology to work properly and have no third parties involved.
Mm.
So yeah, like going back to the what like who do we trust and how do we trust? I think that's one of the first misconceptions that I actually want to touch on. I don't
Yeah, there
think
we go. Yeah, I said there we go.
Yeah.
We're hitting the ground
uh,
running. We're clearing the misconceptions. Yeah.
Go.
like not necessarily a misconception, but like I think it's not necessarily true that trustless is less secure than a bridge that is using a trusted environment of like third party validators that validates the messages that are being sent across or the assets that are being sent across.
Mhm.
So I think there you have to look at it from a differentiated viewpoint. If you, for example, increase the validators that the bridge has, you basically get back to like the initial blockchain theory, where like every blockchain is just as decentralized as the validator set in the blockchain.
Mhm.
So
All right. Cool.
that
Interesting.
answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, it partly answers it. It partly answers it. I suppose it's a what would you call it? It's in its early stages of being solved, and so a lot of it are I suppose would be theoretical approaches on how to figure it out. But yeah, I mean, essentially, it's the idea that this isn't the ideal way to handle and solve the problem as it stands, but it's the solution that works. And while we work towards something better, this is what we sort of have to work with as we iterate and get more efficient solutions.
I think I have a slightly different point of view there because I think this is one of these problems which technologically you just like at least from my current standpoint, I don't really see a way how this is going to be 100% solved because we
Okay.
always have this kind of trilemma where we have to balance for like two sides of the trilemma. It's like either you
Mhm.
want to be like, fully trustless or you want to be like extensible or generalizable. Like like you can't optimize for everything
For
just because of
everything.
how technology works.
Right. So by that analogy, we just pivot a little bit. So then, when we look at that and we talk about the blockchain trilemma, right? We currently know the limitations with Ethereum, and it's like, do we then throw our hands up in the air and say, okay, this is probably just one of the things we have to live with, or we are as we're working towards layer 1, layer 2 solution, side chains, and zero knowledge proofs, and all of that cool stuff. These are attempts to solve this problem. So does the same thing not apply to the trustless issue with bridges, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think I know I understand where you're trying to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
I think like none of the current blockchains are really like solving the trilemma. They are
Mm-hmm.
just different. It's more of a balance. The question is really what kind of balance do you try to hold?
Right.
And that's why like some of the blockchains that we're currently like that are currently have the most success are the ones like basically there's Ethereum and then there's the ones that are like really really quick and really scalable, which is then
Mm-hmm.
maybe something like Solana, and there's like
Mm-hmm.
there's obvious trade-offs for each of these layer ones out there, and then there's just a different weighing of the three components of it, like decentralization, the degree of scalability, and the security of the chain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think if you go from the blockchain trilemma, that's like chain individualistic, then you go to the interoperability trilemma, where you basically have two blockchains connected, both have
Mm-hmm.
like different kinds of trade-off as in this blockchain trilemma, and now the interoperability dilemma kind of goes on a different layer, and it's still kind of there's trustlessness is just one of the three edge points of it. There's like trustlessness, and then Arjun, this is famously written from Arjun Bhuptani, the one of the co-founders of Connext. It's trustlessness, extensibility, and generalizability. And these are basically the trade-offs that you have to make whenever you're designing an interoperability system that connects blockchains.
Okay, cool. So perhaps it's not a there might never be a 100% like solution. We might just have to outsource certain things as we currently do now, even though I am optimistic that we might get to a point where that isn't necessarily the case. But from where we are at this point in time, we may have to, or it is the case that we're going to outsource certain things to like other chains or other protocols to sort of handle that.
Exactly. I think this is actually where something like Switch comes in, because we
Mm.
actually we can aggregate bridges that optimize for each of the two of the three interoperability issues. So basically, we can help the user to choose whatever bridge they need at any given point in time. Be it a bridge that actually reaches like 50 chains, or be it one that only takes 1 minute for the trade to arrive, like, and then maybe be it one, if you I don't know, try to settle 100 million or something, you don't care if it takes 1 minute or 2 days. You just want it to arrive. So
Mm.
depending on your current situation, you're willing to take certain trade-offs, and I think, yeah, that's something where Switch comes in, and it actually allows you to go with the best suitable alternative for you at that point in time.
Oh, I get you. So, are you saying Switch could provide some form of an option to the user to sort of choose if they want speed or efficiency? In this case, the example you gave, you need to send 100 million. You aren't particularly keen on how long it'll take. You just want it to get there as safely as possible. So, in this case, you prefer security as opposed to speed.
Exactly. That's exactly the way that we look at it, and that's exactly why we aggregate all of these different bridges, because they're not all just equal. Like, not all bridges are created equal. They all have their
Mm,
own trade-offs and their own, like, pros and cons. So I think
mm.
they're all like, their existence in generally is justified, and so we want to aggregate all of them and just provide one endpoint for the user where they can easily interact with them depending on their needs.
Depending on the needs. Cool. So does the Switch make that decision for them, or does Switch provide a questionnaire, quote unquote, for them to pick? Oh, I'd rather it's faster than it is secure. Or I'd rather it's secure than it is faster, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, good point. So, like, in the current iteration, we propose certain routes, and this in this beta version, and now we're trying to actually give this choice to the user, to let the user actually pick whatever individual bridge they would like to use. But yeah, this is an iteration that is down the line a couple of weeks, if not months.
All right, sweet. Awesome, cool. Yeah, this is heading on to a good start. So then I'll just shoot this question to you as we head over into misconceptions, right? That is you, Pyra. So are cross-chain bridges inherently insecure, or is this a misconception?
Well, I guess it's a debate to be had, right? To be had. Like what, touching a little bit on what Fabian was saying, I think it's a bit like, in the sense that it's a bit subjective. Like it's what trust is ultimately dependent on what you trust. Like, because, for example, we're trusting blockchain to be final, to be, there's no double spending. Therefore, we're
Mm,
trusting that there is no one with enough capital in order to create, well, in the case of Bitcoin would be like the 51% tag, meaning there's no one that with the enough capital that can control the network. In the case of
mm.
Ethereum would be, we're trusting that no one can actually get control of like two-thirds of the stake.
Monopolizing.
Yeah, monopolize all the
Right.
stake, therefore actually apply arbitrary rules to which transactions are being mined or which not, which I won't go there, but it's something already happening. And so, like, trust issues are, we have to go, it's trade-offs that we're taking. And in the case of bridges, when we say something can be trusted or not, it's like a gray line, it's a thin line, because there's different technologies out there that bridges are using, and some of them are considered more trustworthy just because of the fact that you need more energy or more work in order to break this security
Mm.
and to break this trust. Bottom line, this is it. Like, so can we trust bridges? I would say yes, mostly we can
Okay.
trust them, but then there's more factors into what we have to trust, because let's say I'm trusting a bridge XYZ.
Mm.
I'm trusting that the protocol is secure, but I'm also trusting that the developers did their due diligence, and then there is audits, and there is no security flaws, and etc. etc. So when a bridge gets hacked, which is like the $1 million question, like, can we trust them? And what we
Mm-hmm.
fear is like being hacked. Most of the times, it's not the protocol being weak. It's not the protocol that it's being under attack. It's some bug or something that was happening on the implementation, and then bloop, money's out. So can we trust bridges? I guess at the end of the day, this is a question that everyone has to answer for themselves. Like, I'm trusting this, and I think this is the problem, right? Like when you're asking users to do, well, again, I could be crucified by this, but when you're asking users to do like some research in order to actually move assets up and down, then you're losing a lot of people, because we have we come from the generation of degens. So of course we're
Mm-hmm.
doing
Yeah.
the research, and of course we're going to do it, and some people will do it better than others, but
Mm-hmm.
but we know a lot of people will just use the service. Therefore, if we're trusting users, again trust, to make research and know what they are trusting, then the battle is lost. That's mostly the reason why we have to keep going and design better protocols, better systems that become fully trustless. Like it's a bit of a challenge, really.
Yeah, and yeah, so as it stands currently, the question is, so the response to that question is, can we trust bridges? And it's more of a yes, but a yes with some caveats,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Like, yeah, we can
But
trust them most of the days of the year, but because you have to be careful that there might be some day in the year that you are in risk. And
so when exactly that will happen, you have no idea. And that could be the day you're making a huge transaction.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. But then it's exactly like when you're playing lottery. Like the more you play, the more tickets you buy, the more chances you have to get to have it. And
To win or lose. So
yeah,
right.
so that
But I mean, I suppose
yeah, go.
I think I'm a bit unsettled with the fact that, I mean, so lottery is a bit different in my, I mean, for me, and then there's like me actually moving funds in a system that I should put some trust in, and it's like, okay, so at what point? So then in my head I'm asking myself, I hope today isn't the day I get wrecked. I hope today isn't
Fair
the day I
enough.
get
Fair
wrecked. I
enough.
hope today isn't
Definitely,
the day.
but look at it this way. Like you trust. I'm going to assume that you're a driver and you have a car and you're moving up and down
Mm-hmm.
with the car, and you're
Mm-hmm.
trusting the brand of the car that you the fabric I don't, the dealer. It's not the dealer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're trusting the person who built the car and the company that's behind it, and you're trusting that they did everything and they tightened the balls, the wheels are fine. So you're trusting them really,
Right.
because when you're braking, you expect the car to stop, and
Mm.
this is trust. We just don't think of it because we've become so used to it that now it's just
Mm.
we assume it's working, and if it doesn't, that's the good thing that these traditional older companies have. Like you can go and ask for responsibilities. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in crypto, it's a bit different because I heard like we were in a conversation and a friend said it was kind of a joke, but it's to a degree it's true. Like in crypto, like the tolerance for failure it's so big that when something goes wrong in
Mm.
bridge, you're happy if you finally get your funds back to you, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like you really don't
You're
care.
thankful.
Yeah, like you really sometimes it's like, okay, is it working? Is it working? Or how is it? At the end of the day, we're still experimenting. So with time, when bridges
Mm-hmm.
and these technologies become bigger and solid and more solid, we will grow to have like assumed trust, which I'm not sure if it's something good or not, but we will be able to move freely with less fear, I would say. Kind of answering to what you were saying, that fuck now I'm scared on what you're saying, right? And yeah, I think we should, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I like the car analogy really good because I have thought about something similar. Because, so the car analogy, I'll take it up a couple notches with like, so I'm trusting the car dealer, and beyond that, I'm trusting that I do not have a faulty unit, right? Because quality control, so that's like quality assurance and quality control. So out of 100 cars, there is one. The odds that there is one that has a faulty brake, a faulty
yeah,
steering, we can say it's high. And so I suppose going into the dealership and whatever, picking up a car and driving it. And again, because we cannot quantify or we cannot measure at what point the car will trip up and fail and, manifest whatever issue it has, I'm trusting that regardless of what happens, this is not that unit that will have me fucked up
yeah,
sometime in the future.
yeah.
So I suppose that's the same sort of approach we're taking with bridges at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that all bridges out there are inherently unsafe or unsecure. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
saying that
Mm-hmm.
since we are dealing with technology, there is some pieces of them, and because we're all humans and we made it, so
Mm-hmm.
it's flawless by design. so sorry, it has flaws by design.
It's flawed.
It's flawed by design.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's just about time that someone is going to find the backdoor, not the backdoor, but like the way to fuck the system. So
Gotcha.
and this is like the day of the year. So I'm not saying that optimistic bridges are bad or external validator sets are not good. I'm just saying that no matter which kind of technology we're going to build, like someday something's going to happen, and we have to know this at least for a while of time, for a period of time. This is going to be happening. So this is like, I would say, like the good and the bad parts of being early. Like we are people, we are testers at the end of the day, testing new technologies on society. So happy days.
Yeah, 100%.
Happy days. Maybe don't move 100 millions at once.
Yeah,
Or
Fabian, I
maybe
think
split it
you
up.
you sort of wanted to respond to that. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, I'm just listening. I think I 100% agree. I think there's like, in relation to this car dealership analogy, there's something on bridges that you can obviously do. There's like something like if you get like a diesel car, you don't pump gasoline in there. So I think if you, because otherwise you like, obviously it's going down. So basically to minimize this kind of like risk of it breaking down, when you use a bridge, don't stay in the wrap asset. Don't do like stupid stuff where, like, don't go into unknown tokens. And then when you're on a new ecosystem, like the goal should always be to hold native assets and not some representation that is issued by any secure or non-secure bridge. So yeah, it's kind of like, if you want long-term security, then the trust should lie ultimately with the, not with the dealer, but with the fabric basically of the car. In this case, in our
Manufacturer.
case, the manufacturer, exactly. In our case, that is natively the blockchain. So yeah, it's always smart to like hold the asset that you want to hold, but hold it as native as possible. So yeah, no
Fair,
revenue,
fair enough.
try to hold it on ETH or something.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I liked, how Pyrus ended it towards the end, where he talked about the fact that these systems are still built by humans and by man. And so, like, there are going to be inherent flaws in the system. And this goes beyond bridges. So it's not necessarily tied and restricted to just bridges. I think the Solana blockchain, even the BSC blockchain was hacked a couple weeks ago slash days ago. So yes, that just goes to show that it's not inherent and exclusive to bridges, which is cool. Which means bridges are not like doom signal 247.
Not really. Yeah, I think the point that I was earlier trying to make sounded a bit like Armageddon, but obviously like we're working on improving the different solutions. Like the whole community is working on improving the solutions that we have at hand. And I think, yeah, maybe like, together we'll probably get to like a system that is at least a lot more stable than what we currently have, where these like bad days happen maybe once every 10 years instead of like once every 4 weeks, So
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be awesome. Once every 10 days isn't bad. I just hope it's not me though.
Yeah, I think we all feel like that.
Yeah, for sure. I better be on my bed sleeping when that transaction is failing.
Sitting on your hands.
Yeah, man. But yeah, no, cool, interesting. So yesterday when we were running over the explain like on five session and we carried out the transaction. First things first, the question: have we fixed the bug in opening that request in the new tab yet?
No, sir. Sorry, it has a PR, but it's not deployed yet. Sorry, I didn't expect to have a follow up on this. Otherwise, I would have deployed.
Well, all right, the PR is out. Okay, I'll be keeping tabs, my guy. Awesome, cool. So I wanted to ask concerning, so while you were carrying out a trade, swapping and bridging a token across multiple chains, a different chain, it was taking about 10 minutes. So I'm curious as to what the solution slash proposition for speed and transaction with bridges are. Is there a world that exists where these transactions are carried out way faster than 10 minutes, and what constitutes that? What needs to be done to facilitate that essentially?
Oh, I love that question. Absolutely. Um, yeah, I think like we actually had exactly that question come up like a couple of days ago in an investor conversation, and I'll start out on this one, and then Sandro, you can like take the rest. Um, so like the conversation that we had is obviously like the reason why transactions take a set period of time is because we need to wait for finality from the blockchain that they're coming from, until we can like mint or like release or whatever the asset on the new chain. And I personally have the opinion that this is going to be like at some point in the future we are going to be like super quick on this, maybe even like under a minute, or like it really depends on obviously the blockchain. Some of them have quicker block approval, some a little bit longer, but I think it's going to be going down substantially. And what we'll see, I believe, is bridges actually becoming somewhat of an insurance provider that is going to go away from like just technically purely bridging the asset, and waiting for like the state to finalize and then releasing, but taking on some of the risk that is involved there, therefore releasing the asset quicker, and then yeah, basically being like mitigating the risk of an asset being released too early. And I think that's going to be a very, very interesting design that I know a couple of people that are already playing with this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's only a matter of time until we get like near instant transactions, and then the bridge's job is not going to be waiting for the finality, but kind of like trying to mitigate the risk that they are taking on in order to finalize this transaction in that short time frame.
All right, cool, cool. So there, it's in the works, and we should be seeing some progress pretty soon.
Okay, yeah. I think we already touched like on my favorite misconception. We've already touched over the last like 30 minutes of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially like when I came into like this whole space and interoperability as a topic as a newbie or like as a degen, I wasn't aware that like basically everything that we do is a trade-off of within this trilemma, and that like all this like trustless and trusted conversations, it's like there is an inherent need to try to build trustless, but really the question is like, what exactly do you trust? Do you trust the technology? Do you trust third-party providers? Which of these two ways is actually the right philosophy? I mean, we're here because we think we should be trusting the technology. But then, yeah, as a result, like even the technology is still trusted because you still trust the person that has built this technology. You trust that they are actually like either smart enough or that like nobody has yet had enough time to hack the technology. So yeah, there's like there's trust, even trust and trustlessness, and I think this is one of the my famous favorite ones. So yeah.
Nice, cool. How about you, Pyros? Which is your favorite, or if you don't have any favorite, what exactly is a misconception you want to clarify?
That's an interesting. I haven't made my mind, to be honest. I'm not sure I have
Mm-hmm.
an opinion on because so my thing is I'm not. What I'm trying to say is I'm not sure if I have enough overview over the misconceptions that are out there about them,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm kind of, maybe I'm just not listening enough outside. Let's say, outside my
Ah,
my
gotcha,
my, my bubble, and
gotcha.
then like I have my conceptions about bridges, which probably
Mm-hmm.
some like probably some of them are misconceptions for a lack of knowledge. But then I don't know what really everyone else is thinking.
Is a
You know what I mean, right?
I get you. That makes sense. It's essentially the idea that, well, I can't tell what people are saying, so there is nothing to counter
Yeah,
that against.
exactly. And then right now, actually, this is a pure honest like right now thought is like, then maybe I should know. Like maybe I should be more interested in out there and to know what every or like general public is actually feeling
I
about
do
them.
think it will be useful. I think it will be useful
Yes.
because then, because, amongst other things, amongst perhaps the steep level of knowledge required to work and use a bridge or even a DeFi protocol or even a DApp, there is probably fear in people's mind, hearts, whatever, and understanding that this is or understanding what people are saying that is possibly false, and addressing that and
Yes.
clarifying doubts helps people to then trust the system a lot more. So I suppose, we could put our ears down and then, write an article, make a video, and just create awareness, essentially
Yeah.
that, okay, this
Definitely.
has been said, but this is false. You can trust me because I'm building this, and I suppose that helps drives adoption as well.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. And I'm going to put like an eye on this and a year also, like trying
Mm-hmm.
to actually figure like what's going. I mean, it's not like I'm not reading out, but then I think maybe I'm just reading people that I feel that know more than I do,
Right.
and then I keep looking at this side of the.
So it's
Yeah,
basically people
exactly.
in your
Thank you.
circle who are basically talking about the same thing, as opposed to people
Yeah,
maybe challenging perhaps your
yeah,
ideas and what you're
yeah,
building.
yeah, definitely, maybe.
Sweet, cool, sounds good. Fabian, do you want to add to that?
I think the only thing that maybe Sandra is gonna agree there, something that we heard a lot come up in like different conversations on conferences or something, was a misconception about the different hacks that go down. Again, like as Sandra said, like it's basically people are obviously lagging knowledge, because they don't like it's not their like specialty to look into
Mm-hmm.
these like into bridges and how the internals work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, like what exactly is this kind of hack? Where does it result from? Is it like a smart contract issue, or is it like
Mm-hmm.
is it human error? Like who is actually losing? Is it like how can you lose from a bridge hack? Like how can you be affected as a person? Is it because you've been providing liquidity in the bridge? Is it because you hold a
Mm-hmm.
wrapped asset? No, because the blockchain, like the bridge that has been hacked, is canonical for whatever blockchain you're on, and basically the value drained affects the whole ecosystem that your assets are in. So like there's
Mm-hmm.
different layers of how you can lose from a hack, and I think many people are not aware of like which ones are actually valid. Like we had a lot of people, for example, come to or like at least I in different conversations, like asking me, "Oh, I've made a transaction through Nomad," or "Oh, I've made a transaction through the
Mm-hmm.
Binance Bridge. Like I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
lose my money now." And I'm like, well, why would you? Like where are your assets? Are your assets wrapped, or like this kind of stuff? So
Exactly.
that's what comes back to the point I made earlier. Like if you hold a native asset of a chain, you're always more secure than holding a wrapped asset.
Mm.
So that's one
Right.
of the misconceptions, or like not knowing that stuff is kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, 100%. 100% do agree that that is probably one of the most important misconceptions to be cleared. That just because you interacted with the chain, or just because you have interacted with the chain, doesn't mean you are going to be a victim of the hack. You need to figure out what exactly you are currently doing with your funds. Are they wrapped, like you said? Are you staking? Are you providing liquidity? And if those are the case, then you want to take a look. And yes, essentially. So then it clears a potential user's mind of fear of, oh, I want to stay away from bridges because bridges are bad, as opposed to all I have to do is be smart about my liquidity provision, or I just choose to not provide liquidity at all. I can interact with the chain, I can make trades, I can swap and all of that cool stuff, but I will not provide liquidity just because maybe that one day in 10 years might happen to be a day I choose to provide liquidity, and it just makes sense to not do that. So I suppose when people have an understanding of how or what they might do to get them hacked, then they get to choose if they want to carry out the action or they just default on it.
Yeah, totally. That's a really nice summary.
Yeah.
Then there's always that like API factor. It's like you could get hacked, but there's an
Yeah,
APY of 20%. So
yeah,
let's jump right into
exactly.
that.
I suppose that's the degen at the back of his ear saying, "Do it, do
So
Exactly.
you hear, so you hear it too.
it." Yes, I hear it too. Sadly so, but I hear it too. So also, all right, just before we, obviously bring this down and all of that cool stuff, everyone, thank you for joining us. If you have any question and you want to join in on this conversation, please feel free at any point in time to request to speak, and we'll be happy to bring you up and you can clarify, whatever misconception you have or whatever question you have as far as bridges are concerned. And I'm sure Fabian and Paris will be more than happy to respond to that. So again, feel free to raise your hand and join in on the conversation. Questions, contributions, they're welcome 100%. 100% cool. So I usually tend to ask this question at some point, which is, what is so first of all, what is one question you think I should have asked as it pertains to Swidge and the problem you're solving and bridging and swapping and multi-chain and cross-chain interoperability? what is our one question you perhaps would always answer, and but I didn't ask it clearly. So, and how would you have answered it? So you can basically pose the question and answer it. It could be one of the most exciting thing about Switch, exciting thing about cross chain, exciting thing about bridges themselves. So, Fabian, Paris, what do you guys think?
I think I'll have to like I'll let me go first quickly, and then
Okay.
I obviously have to like say the most exciting thing for me is building Swidge.
Mm,
We've actually like over the last couple of weeks we've developed a new approach to doing this interoperability, like cross-chain aggregation of different
mm,
solutions. And I think like I said that yesterday, it's a little bit too early for us to like go into detail there, but we're working on something innovative. And I think this is for me right now the most exciting thing, because I think it's really going to like it's going to turn our current world upside down, and then
mm.
yeah, it's going to be amazing to be part of this, and building this out. Really.
Sweet, sweet, awesome, cool. How about you, Paris?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to agree with Fabian there. Like the journey that it's being, uh, building, doing research, and just increasing knowledge about this and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually quite exciting, like because it's really something that I mean, for me, being someone that I used to learn by doing and like explore technology, like I think I came to a point where I was like stalled, like
Stalling.
I was yeah, I was kind of it was starting, like what I was doing, it was starting to feel boring. And when
Mm,
I fell into this bottomless hole of that is blockchain technology
mm.
is like that's super fun. um, it's again not sleeping a lot, but this is fun. It's super cool. So yeah, I don't know. And
Cool.
then yeah, like you said like an interesting question, if I understood correctly, that you could do, not especially to us maybe, but I think to everyone, is how people, how anyone sees the scene and like the communities and the technology being in like
Mm-hmm.
X amount of years from now. And
Mm.
probably everyone is going to give you like a different answer, but
Yeah.
I think like this factor of dreaming that people is like, I don't know, that could be this way. This is amazing for like inspire people and just give ideas out and figure out what the future is going to be. So yeah, in my case, I don't know. I think I just put the trap for myself. um, I don't know. Like in future, it's going to be exciting again, but I
Yeah, I
wouldn't.
think I think it will. I think it will be exciting, as long as I am not happening to provide liquidity on that one day out of 10 years. For sure, for sure, exciting. But
Again,
yeah,
don't provide 100 millions in the same pool. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can be sure I
spread
won't do that.
spread your eggs in different baskets.
Thanks for the advice. I will be sure to take that for
Yeah.
certain. All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Fabian, and thank you so much, DNA. This has been a beautiful conversation. Learned a lot about bridges and understood and cleared out certain misconceptions myself. And I hope everyone in the audience had a delightful experience as well. My name is Yinka from the Dapless, and this has been our Web3 One is to One talk show, where we sort of bring in people building really cool stuff in crypto. We ask them questions, they clarify doubts, and we just vibe. So thank you again, Fabian. Thank
No.
you, DNA, and thank you to everyone in the audience. It's been fun.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a good day. It's
You
been
too,
great
man.
having you around.
Bye bye. Wait, I'm going to practice.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.